My loves, today's message, we're going back to our old roots here. I feel it is disruptive in nature. Today we have a disruptive message. For those of you who have been with me a while now, you'll know I occasionally go rogue. To be quite honest, I have quite the library of disruptive reads. If you want and you're feeling disruptive, I will leave those links in the description. That's kind of like something you do if you're also going rogue, if you're also just losing your shit. I don't know. They definitely are not for you at a time of delicacy. Only watch them if you're ready to be rattled, I think. Okay, so today we are going to talk through what a test is, what it actually is, because I sense there's so much confusion about what a test is, and in a way that doesn't serve the collective, which is why we're addressing it. It's not a coincidence that you found this message and that you felt the need to click on it. You might be going through a very rough questioning period, a very rough doubting period. You might feel like you are just constantly being tested. And your subconscious probably wants answers. It wants clarity. So here's what I'm going to tell you. The only way to describe this, what you're experiencing, this confusion, and to describe why you're being tested, we have to explain what a test is. We have to go back to the beginning, take a few steps back, because you need to understand what a test actually is and what we understand a test to be before you can understand why you're being given tests. And so you may be in a time where you are wondering, why am I fighting so hard? What is the purpose for all these tests I'm being given? What is the larger purpose here? I don't understand. Why is it so difficult? So we need to take a few steps back. We need to go all the way back to our understanding of what a test is. I sense a lot of you are just very tired. You've been battling obstacles, tests, facing challenges head on, just really utilizing all of your resilience here. And I don't think you want to anymore. And that's why this message is so important. It's going to find you at precisely the right time to clarify what the hell you've been going through and why. But it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be clarity that just feels good, okay? I need to warn some of you, whenever I do disruptive messages, they are not delicate. They are not pretty. They're not here to reassure you. They're here to disrupt you. They're here to shake you for your highest good. There's a ton of misinterpretations, misunderstandings that are not serving the collective's highest good right now. So this is to clearly walk you through what a test actually is, why you are getting them, why perhaps we misunderstand them, what's going on there, where does that come from, what's the origin? Because I think your guides right now know you're ready. They know you're ready to hear it. They know you're strong enough to hear why. And potentially this will get you out of this feeling of being exhausted, continuously battling tests. This information is not light, but it is what actually changes the circumstance, okay? So your guides want you to hear this fully, and if you get triggered, they want you to look closer at why. So take this all with a grain of salt. Do not shoot me. I am just the messenger. I love you guys dearly, and let's get into disrupting, baby. All right, if you stayed, I'm so proud of you. Okay, first, we need to understand the common interpretation of what a test is and where it comes from. What is the origin? Why are we misunderstanding what a test is? We think of a test as some sort of divine orchestration. Now, the entity that is doing this does not necessarily have to be an entity. We just think there's a higher orchestration involved, right? It's not necessarily that we need to believe there is an entity, although some do believe that there is a conscious entity moving things around. Our biggest interpretation is not necessarily who is observing our tests. It is more so operating under the assumption that I, the one who is being tested, need to prove my intentions to something external. So we're all following that. We all understand what we're doing when we're being tested is proving ourselves, okay? So we think that in theory, if we decide to change our course, our timeline, our direction, we will have micro checks to see if we are serious. That is what a test is in our conscious brain. It'll test to see if our intentions match our actions. Otherwise, how would this external reality understand our internal shift? From a logical standpoint, this makes sense. We must demonstrate our intentions in order for them to be received on the external. So this concept of free will is what really grays the interpretation of what a test is. The concept of free will confuses the spiritual community. And why is that? It's because the concept of free will directly contradicts the idea of surrender. If we have free will, what are we surrendering to? Surrender is surrendering to whatever this separate thing is outside of us and their divine orchestration. So the reason testing is so misinterpreted, is so gray, is so confusing, is because we don't know how much free will we actually have and how much we are supposed to surrender. And this is directly the piece in the middle that defines that, okay? This is why it's so important. This is why this message is going to really make a difference in some of you. So it's difficult to see where the line ends. How much free will do we have? How much are we surrendering? Who is testing me? What is happening on the outside? Why am I being challenged like this? And here is where the misunderstanding really lies. It is in this gray area. It is right here. The question, how much do we actually have a say, is being posed with being tested. And what is already decided for us? How do we know when to take action and when we are being tested? And how do we know when to just surrender? That is what we're solving here today. I know I'm taking on quite the challenge, huh? I'm really getting into the biggest question in the pseudoscientific community that has no real evidence here, except for what I can see on energy terms. So here's what you need to understand for this first part, very clearly as I can say. We are going to be defining how much free will we actually have in this message. As clearly as possible, this message is going to use what a test is to explain to you how much you are supposed to surrender and how much you are supposed to actually take action. And then from there, you'll make your opinion based on that. I'm not going to give you any absolutist things. I'm not going to say this is 100% true. I'm going to explain this in a way different from anything you've ever heard, I think. And then you will make your assumptions based on that. You will make your conclusions based on that. Okay, so we talked about what makes this such an important topic, how we actually define a test, and what we think it is. And now we are going to talk about what a test actually is from an energy reader. So just to summarize, we clearly defined a test is a matter of free will. It is us demonstrating something. It is us signaling to the universe our intentions. And even if someone fully believes in surrender, they still often believe in intention setting. So we cannot be a human that does not have desires, wants, and intentions. You cannot be a human that just fully surrenders. It is impossible. So if I'm talking to someone out there right now who believes we just fully surrender, that's impossible. You have desires, you have wants, you have intentions. They live within you. There's no way to turn that off. So now that we understand to some degree, there's no escaping creating an intention. There's no escaping having free will, having wants, desires. Now we can talk about what a test actually is. Often it makes sense to our conscious mind to think of something separate to us, right? Someone out there, we are proving what we want to them. We are proving our intentions to that thing. That's the only way our conscious brain can actually make sense of this. But this is where the actual issue lies. This is what I'm picking up on, is where the misunderstanding comes from and where it's actually hurting the collective. When we begin to think of tests happening to us, that's where it's detrimental. That's where it's problematic. They become distorted. They become something that is a burden, that is creating us as victims. We are falling prey to something separate, hurting us, something separate, giving us challenges, something separate, inflicting suffering on us. Even if we love that thing and we know we're supported and loved by the universe, we still can't get over the fact that we are hurting, that we are being challenged, right, by something separate to us. And so here's where we need to define something clearly, is what is actually happening when we are being tested. And energetically, here's what's happening. You are all that is. You create your reality. Everything you see and perceive is what you create. I am here. You created me. I am here for you. This is your reality. Now, some people can logically hear that, but they're not actually fully letting that settle. But what that really means is as you grow consciousness, you begin to set intentions and move reality around for yourself. You begin to decide with your awareness you want something and you will work towards it. You also get free will to, at any point, decide you want to change your course, decide you want to be different. You can take your reality and you can completely change your circumstance. And I know you know that because I know you've done that many times. This is all in your control. If we take that perspective and apply it here, here's what I'm going to tell you. This is where testing happens, is in our direct control. It happens at threshold moments where we pivot, where we decide something different, where we make a choice. I don't want this. This is not my intention. I am changing. And a test comes at that threshold point. If we make an intention, we are deciding to change an existing pattern. So something we don't like is happening. We look at it and we say no, and we break that pattern and a test appears. So what is a test? It is a precise moment where you break a pattern, but you only have reference of the old pattern and you are just stepping into the new pattern. You are just beginning to take a new step. And so this is why the common understanding of like a test is like, let me give an example. Because, when we think of a test, what is a test? Leaving an abusive relationship. That is our old pattern. We know that pattern. It is familiar to us, but we decide one day, okay, I don't want an abusive relationship. I want a healthy one. You don't know what a healthy relationship looks like, but you are deciding, you are setting intention, I don't want this anymore. And at that precise moment, when you are actually done, when the universe hears the signal of, I don't want this anymore, the new pattern is presented to you. That is it precisely when the old pattern returns to test you. So when we think about it, we're at a threshold moment where we've decided to change our action, but the old pattern comes back up one last time. It's saying, are you sure? And we're thinking of that as a higher entity is judging me. A higher entity wants to know my decision, wants to know my intention. So we think of someone is testing us because this feels too specific. This feels like it showed up at a precise moment that couldn't be just a coincidence. It happened for a reason. So here's what's actually happening. Here's what I can tell you from an energy level is like, okay, Salt, if it's not someone divinely orchestrating it and I am all that is and I am creating my reality, what is actually happening? What is happening is your mind calls forward the old again. Right at the moment where you're actually breaking your old pattern, your mind pulls up your old pattern to test it. It's not some faraway entity like messing with you. It's not asking you to prove yourself and to prove your resilience and strength. It's you. It's you not having a reference point to what your new pattern looks like. And so your mind, all that is, your consciousness, is pulling something back up because you don't understand what has actually changed yet. You have no reference. You do not actually know you have changed until you have a reference point, until you have an example. So that's why your mind calls forward something. That's why you bring forward something to understand. Have I changed? You don't know you've changed until you are in the same energetic situation and choose differently. So you, your higher self, calls in what we know a quote unquote test to see what you will choose. It's not to prove yourself. It's not to show your intentions to some foreign entity that wants you to struggle endlessly. Instead, if we can look at it as ourselves needing a reference point, calling forward a decision point to see the change in an energy sense, we can understand what a test is and we can clearly differentiate it. This happens at precisely a moment I decided to break an old pattern. So the old is coming back up and the new is here at the same time. And it's not just a coincidence. I brought this forward. I called this forward. That's why during moments where someone finally lets go and moves on, that's why we know the ex comes back. That's why we know something happens at those weird moments. Why is that? It's because you are calling forward a reference point. You're deciding something different. You don't have a reference point, and you need to see that to understand it's different now. So because the mind is in a decision point to see if the loop is over, we have to choose differently. We have to make a different action. And that's where it's powerful to see that you're calling it in yourself and not some sort of separate being or entity. Even if we think of the universe as loving us and some sort of loving presence, it being separate to us can kind of still indirectly make it more of like something is happening to me, not I am doing it to myself. So what really happens from an energy standpoint is we get trapped in an old cycle. We decide, I don't want this anymore. And then our higher self, us, all that is, calls forward a decision point to have a reference of choosing different, because we don't have a reference. We only have that old loop, that old pattern. We have to demonstrate in action that we are stepping differently. We cannot just say it in our mind. We have to live by it. And so this part is to really clarify, this is not random things just hitting you to see where you are. There's no separate thing calling, orchestrating, moving things around. This is all you. You take the step out of the loop and you call forward a decision point to have a reference. And you need that reference energetically to keep moving pieces to align with you. Okay, this is my new decision. What does this energy look like? What am I bringing forward now? And so once you've quote unquote passed the test, you're simply just telling the universe, yourself, I am choosing this now. This is my free will. This is my intention. There's no real surrender in this instance because you are setting your intention. You are setting what you want. All that is a reflection of that. This is a critical distinction you need to hear because these are the moments we do not surrender. The part of it where surrender is not relevant. We are talking about choosing, setting an intention, and moving. That does not mean surrender is not important. It's just we are clearly defining what needs action and when. And that is you recognize a pattern you don't like. You don't want to live that way anymore. You set an intention and then you quote unquote prove yourself to yourself. You start walking differently. You call forward different energy. And so without a test, there's no clear signal. There's no clear action. This is what's really important is this distinguishes surrender for you. These moments, a test moment is when you move forward, and surrendering is more so larger picture. Surrendering is if you don't know what you want at all, you surrender. This is, I identify clearly, I do not want this. And so I'm stepping differently. Surrendering is you're happy where you are, but you don't know what you really want long term. Those are two different energies. I was wearing like a sweater and I had to take it off because I'm like so heated about this. It's just a very emotional thing, I think, right now, especially in the collective energy I'm getting. So listen, guys, hopefully at this point we've clarified the difference between surrendering and action. Surrendering is a much different energetic tone. You are happy in your current circumstance, but you don't know what's really next. You are content. You could stay where you are. But where surrendering starts to hurt you is if you are not happy where you are and you are surrendering to that unhappiness. That is very, very important. I say that to you as clearly as possible. So this is where free will is so important. This is where action is important, where you don't get stuck in a surrendering cycle, because I don't want that for you. This is the part of the message that might be harder to hear. I love you though. So I just am going to say that first before we go into this. We're going to clarify why you feel you keep getting tested and what actually might be happening instead. And then I guess indirectly that will clarify why you're not being tested at all if you're not. Now, we've clearly defined what a test is, right? We have defined that it is not some sort of separate entity to us orchestrating things around, moving pieces randomly to see what we want. A test instead is us looking at a pattern, not liking that, and saying, I'm setting a new intention and I'm calling forward something new. So the test moment, the threshold moment, is the universe hearing you. I guess, in other words, you hearing yourself. So here's what's really important that I need to say slowly. Struggle alone is not a test. And I hope you don't hear this as me being insensitive to your situation. I feel you. I understand. But there is no entity perpetuating struggle on you. There's no entity relentlessly putting you in the ringer. There is no entity saying, keep fighting. There should not be consistent struggle and obstacles in your life. Instead, ongoing struggle that doesn't dissipate or get easier is actually a sign that you've outgrown an old cycle. Now that cycle was probably served you at one point. It doesn't mean that, you're choosing incorrectly. It means that you've outgrown something and you're staying in it. If you have ongoing struggle and obstacles and bad feelings, that is a signal to you that you might be ignoring. When a cycle perpetuates an old cycle you've outgrown, it is a sign that you're ready to break that cycle. It is a sign you're ready to set a new intention and be tested. A literal test where you see the past pattern come back and you see the future pattern presented in front of you. And that'll be your confirmation that your higher self hears you, the universe hears you. Usually, if your life feels hard or challenging ongoing, it's a signal that you need to move differently. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you, okay, here's how you move differently. A lot of the times it works the opposite way. So you'll try things trial and error until you are presented with tests, until you are consciously seeing, okay, the universe is responding to this, right? It's not like there's a one size solution where I could tell you, okay, you move this way, you set the intention this way, and then everything changes. No, it doesn't work that way. It's very much like trial and error. You're very much aware of your environment and seeing what moves as you move. You're very much experimenting. There's no like one solution I could tell you where it would change everything. You have to be aware ongoing. You have to like see these things start to shift and then move accordingly. Now, I know that I will sound insensitive here. I can already hear some of you. I can already feel some of you defending your circumstance to me and why it's outside of your control. But the point of this video is to actually empower you, even if it feels otherwise. You might feel disempowered in the beginning, but it's to empower you that you have control over this cycle, not that it's being infringed on you. It's not weak people that get trapped in cycles. It's everyone. Life is an ongoing battle to continuously break cycles. We don't just overcome a cycle and then never get trapped in an old cycle again. It's ongoing cycles. That is life. Life is not about one day we get out of this old pattern, we break free, and then we never struggle again. It's continuously outgrowing things and listening. So what's really hard is it's normal to learn to ignore signals. That's one of the struggles of humanity. That's one of our challenges of being here is it's easier to offload them as not your fault or something that's happening to you that you're managing. So hearing that your life is hard because of your inability to listen is like, really? Because it's not a video game. It's not like where we win a level and then we never have to get trapped in a cycle again. We are constantly outgrowing cycles. It is constant. The goal of life is not to beat a cycle and then never listen again. It is to constantly be aware of how you're feeling. Am I unhappy? Am I constantly struggling? Why is that? There's no separate entity doing that. That's you. And so I say all of this. It's hard to hear, I know, but people will convince themselves. It's very common that the cycle is not a cycle, that it is something external that they are overcoming right now. It's easier to do that and to blame an external source, an entity, that something outside of me is testing me and I'm just managing it. I'm just dealing with it for now until it changes. And we do that because we don't have to take action that way. We don't have to hold the responsibility of, okay, I have to experiment and change. Sometimes these old cycles also have positives that we don't want to let go of. So there's like a positive with the struggle. And we use that as like, okay, I'm struggling, but I have this good in my life. So the first necessary question for you is, are you really being tested? Or is this just a cycle that you're in, that you're not breaking? And the way to know is a test is a short period. It is a threshold moment where an old thing and a new thing are presented to you and then it resolves. But a non-test is ongoing struggle. It is ongoing obstacles that should not be happening to you. We're not meant to just be struggling forever. That's not really how reality works, but we will convince ourselves that that's normal, especially if we have people confirming that that's their reality too. It should not be like that. As an energy reader, I'm telling you right now, you should not be struggling indefinitely. That's not a thing. You should have an easy, effortless life, and you know that deep down. And I'm just reminding you this. So, and here's the hard truth that I'm going to say as lovingly as possible. Often people are not being tested reoccurringly, but they have convinced themselves that they are. They believe that they are just being tested, that they are just proving themselves over and over again. But you aren't getting beaten down with decision points. Decision points are one-time threshold moments, and then they resolve. They dissipate. Think of it like waves. Like you're struggling, you decide to change, you have a threshold moment, it's released. The pain dissipates. If it keeps going, that is a past cycle that you have not resolved yet. If your life is perpetually challenging, those are old cycles. Those are old patterns that you have outgrown, that you are not taking any experimental action with for resolving. You are just waiting. You are just surrendering inside them, hoping that they get easier. But this is the time for action. This is not the time for surrender. Surrender would be that you are happy, that you are content to some regard, but you just are uncertain about the future. That is where surrendering plays. Surrendering does not play if you are constantly in turmoil, if you are constantly overcoming obstacles, if you are constantly sad, if you are constantly anxious. That is not something you surrender to. You don't surrender there. So a test stops the struggle. It is a point of release. It is not ongoing struggle. If you do not feel release, you have not been tested yet. Your higher self does not know what to do. You are still actively choosing the old cycle. You have not moved forward. And this is a hard message because there's a lot of misunderstanding here about what a test is and what you're actually dealing with. It requires you to look at what you're doing harder. There is no separate entity that is keeping us trapped in cycles to prove ourselves endlessly. It is us. We are waiting for us to decide differently if we so desire. And that is why people can get stuck in cycles forever, because they are deciding. They are still choosing those cycles. And so the truth is, if it's hard ongoing, you're just not breaking the loop that you've outgrown. A test would be a confirmation to yourself that you are acting outside of that old pattern and you are choosing different. A test tells you that your experiment was successful. Whatever you are doing is your confirmation that you're choosing differently. And that is why I cannot tell you, hey, here's how you signal to yourself that you're choosing differently, because that's experimental. That's getting confirmations from your higher self. That's being presented a moment that is clear to you where the past resurfaces and the future is there and you're deciding. And I can't tell you how to get that. Only you can. So, yeah. I love you guys. Hopefully this doesn't make you not love me. It's true love. I truly believe that I just love you guys so much that I can't not tell you the truth. And that gets me in trouble. It really does. But I don't think I care. So, cheers.